Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. You know what time it is, man. Unc and Phew football time. How you feeling, Unc? How you feeling?
Great, man. It's the start of the European games. So yeah, we got football in
Yeah.
London starting at 9:30 this morning. I got one eye on the Minnesota Jets game. It's
Man.
yeah, a couple weekends a year where you get to. It's not inappropriate to tailgate before noon.
I'm telling you, you can tailgate pretty much at nine, even if you're crazy enough, 8 a.m. if you're a Jets fan or
Yeah, yeah,
Minnesota fan.
it's your way out there for sure, man. Anyways, yeah. So I'm just gently sipping on a Caesar this morning. So
Nice, nice. So I'm starting a little early with the H2O, man. I'm taking it easy, bro. Mm.
fair enough.
But I will say this, man. As we see, like just a hover over the game, bro. Jets are losing. The
They're
Minnesota
terrible.
Vikings are kind of
Brian
they're
Brian
solidifying their
Flores is
space as the
Brian
I'm
Flores is
trying to tell
handing
them
them
it's
their
okay.
ass.
Oh, straight
Yeah,
up. Two picks already for Rodgers, man.
uh,
And the run game
consecutive
can't do nothing.
throws. He
Yes,
threw
yes.
one. He threw one for a pick six.
Mm,
Right. Quick
yes.
release, had it
Pick
out of
six.
there in under 2.5 seconds. Bam, right into the linebacker's chest. Took it back to the yard. Right. Next
Crazy.
throw, next drive, interception.
I'm telling you, man.
I
This Rodgers, I'm telling you, right. I was so wrong about the Rodgers thing with the Jets, bro. It was so
it
wrong.
gets even funnier, right? Because of course he does get the hype because of his reputation, right? So here it is, 3rd and 6. On the 30, they're driving. They got 20 seconds left. It's Rogers time, and all this blindside sack, just bam, guy was unblocked.
Man,
Yeah,
telling y'all, man.
he's having a rough day over there in London.
Man, I'm telling y'all, I got it wrong, bro. By the way, if anybody's tuning in, tapping in, I better have y'all give the likes, man. Get the likes up. We want
Like and
some likes and taps,
subscribe.
man. Like and subscribe, support us on what we're doing right now. And you know what? We could get into the whole Aaron Rodgers drama, man. But I'm sorry, man. I gotta start with what I gotta start with, man. I gotta fit my schedule in and talk about the greatness of the king. It's time for the king, brother. It's time for the king, and y'all already know what I'm going to talk about. I'm talking about the Baltimore Ravens absolutely annihilating the Buffalo Bills. Y'all already know. I told y'all my bias. Y'all
Yeah.
know what time it is. We're talking Ravens. We're gonna talk Steelers a bit on the back end, but we got to talk about 199 yards, 2 touchdowns,
Oh
one on the
man.
ground, one in
Well,
the air.
you
How
called
y'all
it.
feel about that?
You called
Hmm.
it last weekend on the pod, right? Like you're like,
Mm.
come on, Ravens. I want to see 25 carries. You got 24, right?
There we go.
And
There
and
we
like
go.
you knew what time it was, like from Jump Street, man. What was that? 87 yards or 83 yards from the line of scrimmage on the first play of the game or first run of the
Longest
game.
run. Longest run
Like
in Ravens history.
it
Crazy. Hmm.
yeah, because I was kind of watching because I wanted to see what the heck went on. And it just seems that Buffalo's D line got trucked by the Ravens O line. It seems to basically be what it was. Because think about that. I mean, not only is 200 yards impressive, but it was only 24 carries. Like, sure,
Yeah.
even if you take out the 83-yard run, that's still like 23 carries for like 120 yards. The guy's going at 6 yards a carry
Yes,
if
he
you
is.
remove the outlier. So,
And then,
yeah. I mean, the only question is
mm,
like, why isn't it Derrick Henry night every night? We've been saying this from the beginning of the season. Why isn't this guy getting 25 yards a carry? Right. So the question's still out there given that result.
I'm telling you right now, there was
Plus, he
some
had a
crazy
receiving
stats
TD.
saying that.
Plus, he had a receiving
Yes, he
TD.
did. And that's what I kind of like now that they're making it less obvious that it's a passing down or running down.
Right.
So they'll have Henry in packages that they give Justice Hill. Do you feel me?
Yeah.
And because
Yeah.
everybody knows when Justice Hill comes in, he's the pass catching
Oh yeah,
wide,
without telegraphing that
without
guaranteed
telegraphing.
we're going out for the outlet pass to Hill. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So, like you said, like we've been saying, the Ravens offense has to ironically run through the King Henry, because
Yeah.
it actually looks smoother and better. So here's the irony: the Ravens got Todd Monken to modernize the passing offense, but now he has to go Greg Roman, because you have to at this point. The Ravens, John Harbaugh would be stupid. You have
Well,
to run
play to your
Henry.
strengths. You've got to play to your strengths.
You have to run him 20 times, 20 to 25 times
Right.
a game. That's
Because
the
I, I
only way you
I
have to
didn't
run.
even look. I didn't even bother to check into Lamar's line this week, but I'm assuming Lamar ran
None.
for at least 50 yards himself, right? So,
Yes,
like
yes.
between him, Hill, and Derrick
Mhm.
Henry, like it wouldn't shock me if the Ravens had like 250 yards, almost 300 yards rushing. I mean, how do you fight that,
Yes. I'm telling
right?
you, most teams cannot fight that. And you know what? This is the irony. We are having actually the return of the running back. Funny enough,
Yeah,
you feel
yeah,
me? We had, when was the last time we've seen such a huge type of running offense from all types of teams? There's so many
yeah,
teams that are run first. You know what I mean? So if we look quickly at the box score, man, and we understand what happened with the Ravens Buffalo game, Buffalo had no chance. I also give this: Josh Allen tried though. Josh
yeah.
Allen tried, but we look at the stats, man. The Ravens did everything. You see Lamar right here ran for 54 yards, obviously 199 from Derrick Henry. And the thing is, they were trying to get him 200 yards at some point. You know what I mean? Around the
Yeah,
end of the game. But it was a fantastic game. And this goes back to something that we talked about earlier well, in our earlier episodes, bro. The offenses are catching up. You know what I mean? And these things are rechanging the scripts. Everybody thought, not everybody, but Tennessee obviously did. They thought Derrick Henry was done. King Henry came back. You know what I mean? Another person we thought was done and was Cook. This guy. Talk to him, Monk.
well,
500
yeah.
yards, man.
Good
Mm,
old Kirk Cousins. Yeah,
right. Mm,
on
mm.
Matty Ice, Matty Ice's
Matty
Hall of
Ice
Fame
Day.
induction night into the
Yes,
Atlanta,
sir.
that Hall of Fame, that Ring of Fame that they have in Ben's Stadium, and every
Yes,
NFL team
sir.
has it. So yeah,
Mm.
this was Matty's night, Matt,
Uh,
and he holds the record, all-time record in Atlanta for 503 yards passing in a game. Right, really big
yes, sir.
number.
Yes, sir.
If you were Matty, you had to figure for sure you would have left Ben Stadium still holding that record, right? On your night, no.
Nah.
Kirk Cousins passed for an
Yo,
improbable 509 yards, setting
I'm
up a
saying.
new record. Went
Mm.
42 for 58. So don't get used to that type of volume. That's an incredible number of passes.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what was going on with Bijan Robinson. Like, I think he had a typical night. Like he had about 90 yards or something like that. But he just sort of
yeah,
they just sort of like the running game just didn't seem to be part of what was going on. I mean, there was no room for it. But if you had Drake London or Mooney in fantasy, right, both those receivers paid off. Mooney had 2 TDs and 105, and Drake
yeah,
London finally gave you a number like you've been looking for from that guy for not just this season but last. 154 yards and a TD, right? So
yes, sir.
and he still managed to throw the ball all around the field. So yeah, just an incredible
Mm.
night. I would say more than anything, Tampa Bay was kind of inefficient. Um, but it's not like they didn't try, right? I mean, Tampa Bay still had a pretty good statistical night, as fantasy guys will tell you, right? Ask Kareem,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
He had Mike Evans. He think, he thinks he's going to kick
He
my
was
ass
probably
today.
smiling ear to ear.
He thinks
He's
he's
facing you. He's facing you
Yeah,
right
he
now. Yep.
thinks he's been to kick my ass today, but I'm gonna show up. Anyways, but yeah, so big night there. And I guess they were just blitzing like crazy. Like I can't explain the 58 pass attempts otherwise. So, but anyways, give Cousins credit. He came through. he's just one of those kind of players, right? Like apparently he's had a reputation for not like showing up on primetime games and everything, but I don't know, man.
What's up?
I don't think there's really much merit to that meme because the last few times I've seen Kirk Cousins on primetime island games, he's shown out pretty well. He knows when the camera's turned on. But
I
kudos,
think it's
kudos to
this
Raheem
year,
Morris,
man.
kudos to the Atlanta Falcons for a hard fought game. Wasn't over till overtime,
Yeah,
right? And yeah, and they had to
man.
come back from behind to win it. So yeah, give Atlanta credit for a quality win at home.
And you know what? They beat a very good team. And the Buccaneers team put up 30
Yeah,
points as well. Baker
and it's a
Mayfield was
divisional
slinging that
game.
thing, and divisional game. This is gonna be huge for them. Come, you know, what I
Yeah,
mean,
that
November,
that was a
December.
very
'Cause when
important.
the
That was a
mhm.
very important game for both teams.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. It was major, and Kirk Cousins, to see him resurge like this, it's not like he left, but Kirk has this reputation, and it's actually kind of true. It's changed a little bit this season because of his wins recently, but in
Mm.
prime time, he has some record like 0-6 or something coming into this season. And his
I
two primetime games, he was
yeah
able to string it up for the Falcons. Now they're a 3-2 team, looking very good because they had a good win versus the
yeah
Eagles. You know what I mean? They beat the Saints. They're rolling now, beating the Buccaneers. I'm telling you, they could go on a run because I believe in that offense. I don't know about their defense, but their offense, they got Kyle Pitts involved. And that's
yeah.
something that we've always been saying as fantasy guys.
Well, you
Why
saw
don't
the
you
do.
involve Kyle Pitts? I'm like, Kyle Pitts is talented, but he never gets the ball. And never,
He's
this is a
he's
big
been
game for him. You know what I
he's
mean?
been very frustrating, Kyle Pitts. People have been waiting for that guy to
Mm.
convert for a while, so that was also encouraging to see. But you
Oh,
know, the dual threat of Mooney and London is great, and if they can get Bijan
mm.
rolling, I mean,
Yes.
we caught. I seem to remember picking Atlanta to win this division, and obviously that
You
hasn't
did
changed.
actually. You did. You did.
But
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna give you props for
we
that. Yo, you
we
did.
need to see a bigger role from Bijan in the offense to balance that out because you can't count on Kirk Cousins pulling your fat out of the fire every week with a superhuman performance. I mean, how many people are going to retire and go into the Hall of Fame in Atlanta this season, right? So,
That's a fact. You know what I mean? I don't think we're gonna see 509 yards, but we are
yeah,
seeing offenses pick up though, and that's something that we talked about early in the season. The defense is a bit ahead, but the offenses are picking up. One
yeah.
offense that we know ain't picking up is the goddamn Raiders, because their best players out of there, dog. Their best players out of there, man, and
Yeah.
we got to talk about it, man. How do you feel about Devontae? He even kind of hinted at the Ravens a little bit. I don't know if people caught that. He had Edgar Allan Poe in his
Oh, did he
Instagram
really?
stories. Yes,
Devontae
Edgar Allan Poe. So Devontae is
showing us
is is kind of showing us some Ravens talk. I don't know if
showing
y'all
us his
don't know.
literary side.
I'm telling you. Yeah, I mean maybe he's a poet fan. You know what I mean? He's a poetry fan. But
He's an
Edgar
enigma
Allan Poe,
wrapped in a riddle.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, when I mean Antonio Pierce sees him as a riddle, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I'm telling
Riddle
y'all
he
right now,
doesn't.
if y'all don't
He,
know the, yeah,
the riddle he
go
doesn't
ahead.
want to solve. Apparently.
Oh man, that he wants out of the locker room. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
man.
And for people who don't know, Edgar Allan Poe, legendary poet, who his most famous poem is called "The Raven." Edgar
Right.
Allan Poe passed away in Baltimore, lived in Baltimore most of his life. And the Baltimore Ravens, interestingly enough, they're named after the Raven by Edgar Allan Poe,
Oh
his
yeah. I
famous
mean, there was
poem.
definitely a
So yeah.
tie-in at the time when they were naming them. They said,
Oh yeah.
yeah, this is a an ode to Edgar Allan Poe, and at the same time, it's also a fierce animal in the tradition of sports teams, tigers and bears, right?
For
Uh,
sure.
so yeah, no, it's a clever way. Clever. You'll also notice in their emblem they got
Mm.
that checkered
Mm.
flag in there. That's also
Yeah.
that's
Maryland,
that's
right?
a tip of the hat to Maryland's Catholic origins. Right.
Oh,
So,
I didn't
so
know that.
yeah, man,
Tell us
all,
about it.
all kinds of
Yeah,
thought went into Baltimore.
I like it. I like
Yeah,
it.
man.
What
But
what are your
yeah,
thoughts
no,
on
I would
this,
agree
brother?
that the offenses are starting to catch up a little bit finally, and
Hmm.
part of that is the running game has been more prominent. But
Yes,
let me
sir.
tell you, this situation with Devontae,
Crazy.
man, yeah, well, it's going to be a big assist depending on what team he goes to, and
Hmm.
he has a definite preference. Apparently, he wants to go with Rodgers. He wants to go to New York.
Yes.
But he also loves him some Derek Carr. He went to the
Uh,
Raiders to be with Derek Carr, only to be left
yeah.
behind when Derek Carr went to the Saints. And
Hasn't changed.
Devontae hasn't been happy since. He's one of these receivers that he definitely has favorite quarterbacks, people with whom he's had a connection. And so, yeah, apparently he wants to get with Rodgers. He'd be happy to go to the Saints, but the Saints apparently have cap problems, so they may or may not be able to deal on that.
Mm.
The other team that's in the mix is the Bills, because of course the Bills need a good receiver. Chiefs, obviously, but they're not going to trade. Raiders are not going to trade
Right in
into
your
the Chiefs.
division. Mm.
But the other team that's in that,
Mm.
my Steelers, right? Of course, you remember the Brandon Ayuk stuff in the offseason, but the
How you
Steelers are
drama?
definitely interested,
Big
and they've
time.
got the picks. Apparently, what they're looking for is a second round pick for Devontae. That's their opening bid. And then they'd like another draft pick and or player. So the Steelers have both. They could probably give them Calvin Austin a third or something like that, and a second or third rounder, or they give them a second rounder and a day three pick. But the Steelers could definitely use Devontae. And again, it's like Devontae has his favorites for quarterback, but he also eventually wants to get a ring, another ring. Like he wants he
Yes.
wants in, right? So the
Yeah.
Steelers offer that type of pedigree. So he might take a discount to go play in Pittsburgh, but
Mhm.
I think that him and Pickens would be a deadly combo. So
But my,
thoughts and
my thing
prayers
is,
for me. Thoughts and prayers
do
for
you,
me, buddy.
I would like to see it. My thinking, don't you think Pickens would be part of the package to go to the Raiders, or do you think it'd
Yeah,
be
I
picks
heard I
only?
heard
What do you
one
think?
person say that, and I don't want to believe that Pittsburgh would do that because
Yeah, that's
all
true.
you're doing is moving around chairs at that point, right? Like you're
Good point.
swapping out player A for player A1. Is Devontae necessarily better than Pickens? I don't know.
I'd say, I'd
Reputationally,
say, I'd say at this
reputa-
point in his career, but we would see. We'll see. We'll see.
I mean,
I
reputationally,
need to see
obviously,
more from Pickens. I need to see a bit more.
reputationally, Devontae, has more than Pickens has shown, has had an opportunity to show, obviously, right? But I mean, I think Pickens is one of the top five wide receivers in the league, and
Ooh, okay.
I just think that the two of them together, I think that if they're willing to take a second round pick plus somebody else, another pick that's further down, I'm pretty sure they'd be satisfied with any of the Steelers
Okay.
second tier receivers, right? Because yeah,
No.
if you're getting a pick and a player, you don't get to get like the number one player like that. No,
He's
because
their
now
number one right
you're
now.
just
That's
trading.
greedy.
You're just trading Peter for Paul. So I'm just hoping the Steelers aren't in that mindset. Like the idea is to build on Pickens,
I would see. You know what? That'd be smartest move because even if I'm like, let's say I'm the Saints or I'm the Jets. If I'm the Saints, I'm not getting rid of Olave for Devontae. I'm
right?
gonna put them
Or
together. If I'm the Jets, I'm not getting rid of Wilson for Devontae. I want
yeah,
them together. I want a tandem. I
yeah,
wanted my two best receivers, the young one I'm
yeah,
developing and the older, mature. You can even say top five receiver in Devontae to mentor or just hold it down in let's say
yeah,
red zone situations because Devontae deserves a better quarterback than Gardner Minshew, man. I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah,
Rightfully
yeah,
talented. He deserves better than Gardner Minshew, dog. And you know what? I know it's annoying. It's kind of diva-ish before the start of the season to want to trade, but it doesn't look like the Raiders. The Raiders look like they're tanking, brother. Like, what are they doing,
Well,
man?
and also too, just like the nature of wide receivers, right? Wide receivers have always been a bit diva-ish. They've always had that reputation. I mean,
Yes,
the really top ones, the top good ones, the top 10
the
receivers.
best ones.
They
Yep.
want the ball all the time. They're good with it
Hmm.
when they get it. They're always complaining about getting paid, and they're like fun. They're like a finely tuned piano, right? Tweak of a
Yeah.
hamstring, turf toe, so they're frustrating in that way. They seem like high maintenance. But when you get one that's really outstanding, like Devontae was for Rodgers, like,
Yeah, man.
whew, boy, it's
That
exciting.
you know what? You're talking about screaming receivers. Let's quickly touch on this. Man, I drafted Tyreek Hill as my number one pick in fantasy, man. It's
Yo,
over,
dude.
bro. It's already over. Tyreek was screaming on the sidelines of that game. It was so rough to watch, bro. The
Well,
Miami Dolphins, are they cooked, brother? Before we get to the next segment,
yeah.
brother, are the Miami Dolphins? I think they're cooked, bro. What do you
Well,
think?
yeah, no, very quickly. Well, remember during COVID, during the
Yeah,
lockdowns, and we suddenly found out what everybody's actual value was in the labor marketplace,
yeah,
right? Nurses were tragically underpaid, and all this. There were certain service employees that you were kind of like, yeah, I think we need to pay these people more. Well, that's exactly it with Tua, apparently, in that
Tua. Yeah,
offense. Apparently,
he
Tua is
showed
the
his
only one who
value.
can operate it. It's like,
Yes, yes. That was
right?
definitely
So
a marker of his value, man. These past two games have been horrible to watch, and imagine being a
my
Dolphins player.
Miami's
Imagine how they
outlook,
feel.
Miami's
Mhm.
outlook is like half of what it was. You see the over under on the Pats and Miami game? It's like
Haven't
35
seen it.
points.
Oh my God, I might even take the under on that too, man.
Yeah, yeah. And even
Oh
even
my God.
even that girl, that lady, what's her name? Freeland, Cynthia
Yeah, yeah,
Freeland. He's got those great
yeah,
ESPN models that she developed. Really great
yeah.
sports wonk. Anyways,
Mm.
yeah, even she is the only game of the week where both teams scored under 20. Right? Even her models hate that matchup.
Oh my God, bro. I'm telling you right now, I don't know what's going on over there. They might need a guy like this, man.
Who's that now?
They might need this guy. What's his
Joe
name? Joe
Flacco.
Flacco. I think that they might need to give him. No, you know what? They won't give him a call because Joe Flacco just takes black jobs. That's what he does, man. He's
did,
over there.
did you watch that segment that I sent you?
I
Did you
watched
get
parts of it. I didn't watch fully, but I watched parts of
I
it. It was
I
pretty
mean
funny. It
that
was, it was
that
funny.
section. Oh man, when Bomani Jones and Dominique Foxworthy were talking about Joe Flacco being like Jason from the movies and all this type of shit, it's like he's coming, or pardon me, like Omar from The Wire. It's like he coming, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and he lost his job to Lamar, right, to that
Yep.
type of quarterback, and by coincidence, he goes to Cleveland and replaces Deshaun Watson, another of that
Crazy.
type of that quarterback prototype, right?
Yes,
Now he comes here to Anthony Richardson in Indy.
taking that
Same
job,
again,
bro.
right? Same body type, same prototype. That Lamar has sort of revolutionized the
Correct.
position, right? Here comes Joe
Hmm.
Flacco. And
Man.
it's a funny line the way they were carrying on with it. It was like the Joe Flacco
Mm.
Black Quarterback Revenge Tour, but then they contrasted that with Alex Smith, calling him like he on the Freedom Rider bus with all the black jobs that he created because it
Yeah,
was the opposite. It was the opposite scenario, right? He got run out of town by all these types of quarterbacks. Those two
man.
guys, they're funny and they're smart. That was really good.
For
But Joe,
sure, man. We gotta
it's
talk
so
about it.
funny. Richardson wasn't even having that bad a day. He was 3 for 4 for 71 when he went down. Right, he was
Yes,
actually
sir.
on his way to completions.
But it wasn't enough, dog. It was not enough because the same thing that we've always said, well, people have always said about Richardson, can he stay healthy?
Yeah,
Can the man stay upright?
yeah,
It
that's the
seems like
problem.
he cannot.
Yeah,
That's the problem, bro. And
yeah,
you know what? He's raw. He's talented. Has a lot of potential, but you have to stay on the field. And I don't know if Joe Flacco is. Joe Flacco's like 39. He might be
yeah,
the second oldest quarterback or one of the
yeah.
oldest players in the league right now.
Well,
It's him and Rogers.
that was
Crazy.
the other joke those two guys were saying. Right, they're saying like,
Mm.
half the quarterbacks in the league are brothers, man. This guy could keep this up for years.
I'm telling you, bro, he's holding it down for the white guy, man, under center. I like it.
Oh man. Well, of
That was
course it's
funny
not.
stuff, bro.
Of course it's not racial, right? It's just
What
Joe
happened, Carl? You're
Flacco
being
is
silly.
an old school professional
Yeah,
quarterback. He's good in the pocket. You know, he's
yeah,
seen just about everything there is out there, and he's got a humble attitude, right? So he's always
yeah.
ready to go, right? Now we all know what
And he's
happens
with
to
the
Flacco
Steelers a lot of times.
when he
He's played
plays more
for
than
the Steelers.
half a season, though, he
Yeah,
starts to break down and he starts to throw interceptions and gets immobile and all that type of thing, right? Like if you look at the Flacco line for that game, I'm pretty sure he was like 16 for 26 or whatever. Like he wasn't
yeah,
like necessarily like he wasn't like Andy Dalton the week before. In fact,
no,
yeah, Flacco was 16 for 26, two TDs, but here's the big thing, no picks,
no
right?
interceptions. That's huge.
Justin
That's huge.
Fields, Justin Fields outperformed him and outplayed him. But of course, the
Still didn't
storyline is
win
going to
the
be
game.
Flacco, right? Because of all the things that have happened, and he's such a remarkable professional.
I will say this: this was Fields' best game. If you wanted to see something as a Steelers fan, you
Yep,
saw what you needed to see
I
in that
was,
game. And people keep in mind that the Steelers were down quite a bit,
yeah,
and they were making a
big
mini
comeback.
comeback.
Yeah,
You know
you
what I
know
mean?
they were
So
down like 17-0.
Fields did good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because
and
of
I'm
course that
telling you
was
right
it, right?
now.
They didn't prepare. They
Go ahead.
didn't prepare for Fields, and now all of a sudden you
No.
got this guy slinging the ball accurately, reasonably accurately over the field. He can go downfield. I mean, you did not prepare as the Steelers for a drop back pocket passer. No, you spent all week working on stuff in the lane so that Anthony Richardson won't embarrass you, right? So
Mm.
yeah, chalk a W up to that. But yeah, put it this way: if they'd managed to tie the game and go into overtime, I would have put my money on the Steelers because they were, they had it figured out by the fourth quarter, but it was too late by then. But even though we lost, I was pleasantly pleased by watching the numbers on the stat line because it represented progress and improvement on Justin Fields' behalf. So I'm liking the fact that the playbook is slowly being opened up a bit. Devontae Adams would help in that. But yeah, I
Most
mean, that's a good
definitely.
stat line. I think he finished with over 300 yards for the day. Had a couple of running touchdowns, I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
Two of
it was
them. Yeah,
22
two
for
rushing touchdowns.
34,
Yeah.
312 yards, one TD, zero picks. So that's like,
Mm.
I think only one pick on the season so far for Fields. And he rushed for 55 yards and two more TDs, right? So yeah,
Mm.
Justin Fields quietly having a day in a
I'm
losing
telling
effort,
you right
unfortunately.
now. I'm telling you right now, they're making a little formula in here in Pittsburgh, where I think this is going to be surprising. Justin Fields and Cordell Patterson are low key the best runners.
Yep.
Anytime they're in the red zone, those two are a threat to jog it in and get it in. And I'm telling you, defenses have to be worried because that's a winning formula, man. They're
Well,
doing anytime they're in the red zone. I don't know what Najee Harris is doing, but Cordell Patterson and Field, they're gonna find a way to get these big yards. That's
listen,
gonna help come to December, dog. And I think for the Colts part, I'm telling you right now, they might pull a Bryce Young. I think I texted you that, where they might have to say, "Yo, Rich, stay for a little bit, man. Nurse that hip, nurse that injury
yeah.
for a
Get
little bit."
healthy.
They
Get
might put they
healthy.
might put they might put a Russell Wilson on him. Say, "Yo, he's still getting healthy," while putting Joe
Right?
Flacco in the back door.
You know
I
what I
The
mean?
offense in Indy look really smooth under
Omar
under
coming.
Joe Cool. Yeah, I mean
Omar coming.
that's a
um,
fact, man.
You know what's amusing too, though, right? For Fields, like in
Talk to me.
fantasy, we were joking about that one player in our league who's just such a Steelers homer, even bigger than me, and she loaded up
Yes,
on all
yeah,
those
yeah,
Steelers
yeah.
players, right?
Jilly.
And
They
now,
call
like
her
now, look
Jilly.
at her, right? I think she probably got 25 points last week, or almost 30 points
She,
with Fields. And now the other
bruh,
thing about
yeah,
Cordarrelle Patterson,
yeah.
Cordarrelle Patterson is basically like Joe Flacco for running backs.
Yes, he
Um,
is.
you know what I mean? Like he's this veteran. He keeps showing up, and when he's put to
Hmm.
use, he's very effective. He's a slashing running back. He's not a natural running back by his build. He's kind of tall and angular because he's a wide receiver, I think, by training.
Yes, sir.
So he has an incredible set of hands, right? The guy can catch you as many yards as he can put up running. You know, he's still
Mhm.
wearing 84, right? He wears
Yes,
that wide
sir.
receiver uniform number. He never gives it up.
Mhm.
But yeah, he's
Uh,
an interesting story. That guy.
He actually, you know what he is? He actually used to do some kickoff returns, and he
Yep.
had some returns back in the Minnesota days. Dude is like 34 or 33 or something, old for running back years, but
Yep.
he is the most efficient runner on the
Because
Steelers,
he's been used
especially as a backup. It's
sparingly.
like, wow,
He
you know what I
because
mean?
he's sort of been a backup and a special tool kind of player throughout the years. He doesn't have nearly as many repetitions as a guy like Henry or whatever, right? So he can
That's a
play a
fact.
little bit longer. But yeah, no, interesting guy. If you've played fantasy for the last 10 years, you know, there's always been a
Hmm.
stretch in almost every season where for 4 to 6 weeks, Cordero goes on a tear. So he's
Yes,
productive.
sir.
Yeah, he's productive.
That's somebody. That's somebody to watch out for, and he surprisingly stays pretty healthy. But something that somebody is not healthy and the offense that ain't healthy, we got to talk about it. How do the Chiefs keep getting away with this?
Yeah, I was going
They
to say,
somehow won the game with losing their best player. And I don't care what anybody say. Rushy Rice, at this moment in time, I'm not talking overall. I'm not talking career. I'm not talking, no, I'm talking about this day today, October 6th. You know what I mean? 2024. This was the Chiefs' best player.
yeah, we were
If
saying
you
that.
just look at it,
Yeah,
he's the best, and he's injured. He's gone. He's
we were
probably
saying
gone for
that
the
last
season. But
week. That we were saying
yes, we
that
were.
last week on the podcast that Rashi. I was starting to think that maybe like we're jinxing some people, man, because we were just talking about how he was emerging as the only consistent threat on the Chiefs,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that very afternoon, right? And it was the freakiest injury. Like
Yes.
he just awkwardly ran into his own player, Mahomes. Like,
Mahomes.
yeah, and
And
he sort of bent
wow.
his legs backwards, the wrong direction at the knee joint.
And the worst part is Mahomes needs him the most.
Yeah,
It's the guy he needs the most because he gets open in space. He's fast. He's
yeah.
strong, and he might
Well,
be gone for the whole season. Their best offensive player now is obviously Travis Kelsey, and Kelsey, I believe
and
Kelsey's on the back end, man. Kelsey's
yeah,
on TV shows, bro. Kelsey's like, I'm
yeah.
almost out this big.
Every week they
Yeah.
keep calling for a Travis Kelsey breakout because all these other players keep going down. And you know, in a previous season, he'd be putting up 200-yard games. Man, his season stat line is like half a game of his past, his past production. So yeah, we
Yeah.
keep waiting for Kels to show up. And at the same time, these receivers keep going down. So now everybody's salivating that Xavier Worthy is suddenly going to become a 1,200-yard receiver, and I don't see that happening. He's still going to be used sporadically. So the question is, who are they going to get to reliably run routes? For 1,000, 1,200-yard type of pace. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
you know what? That's the shocking part because despite that, they beat the Chargers. Like what?
yeah.
You lose your best weapon, you still beat the like
after the
what?
last two after the last 2 seasons, you still got to ask that question.
I don't know why. Like, just please explain to me what the hell is going on with these damn Chiefs. They're the only 4-0 team other than the Minnesota Vikings, who I think the Vikings might actually be 5-1 pretty soon because the game is going that way. Explain it one more time, bro. How do they still keep getting away with this, bro?
And D. Reed. The guy's got to have a playbook like the Cheesecake Factory menu. You know, everybody be joking about how his plays, his play cards look like a menu, right? I'm telling you,
Facts.
it's the Cheesecake Factory menu. That thing's 60 pages thick.
Oh
I
my
don't know, man.
God, man.
I don't know, man. Other than
Yeah.
horseshoes, right? But there comes a point where you say that, okay, look, a serious answer is that they're getting it done on defense and they're doing just enough on offense. That's the short answer, right? Because they're barely winning games, but they are winning them.
Yeah.
And so, is the levee going to break? Well, we said that all last year too, didn't we? Don't
Of
ask me
course.
how they keep doing it, buddy. At this point, I can only tell you that either Patrick Mahomes was just like blessed by the gods one way or the other, Um, but he's not even playing that well. But he's still winning
No,
games. But is that a function of him? It wouldn't appear to be because his numbers are ass, right? So
very bad.
what's left except Spagnola and Andy Reid?
You know, the irony of all of this, man, is there are multiple quarterbacks playing better than Mahomes.
He's
Multiple
it's
guys
outside
that
the
are
top
getting it
12.
done. And you may, and you know what? You know, Mahomes and the Chiefs get benefit of the doubt, obviously, because they're two-time Super Bowl
Oh
champions.
yeah, yeah. I forgot about the refs. Yeah, yeah. Sorry,
The rest of it.
I keep forgetting about their number one fantasy player.
Come on, man. That's the 12th man, bro. The 12th man. Any call you want to imagine, the zebras are gonna help. They're gonna be in there. But I'll tell you one thing, man. One person who getting it done by himself, who needs to get some MVP votes, is this dude right here, man. We
Who's
talked
that
about it
now?
last week. Jaden M. F. and Daniels, man. And I wasn't
Wow.
there. I wasn't
Ooh
really
boy,
watching
huh?
football. I wasn't really watching football when the Washington, I'm gonna say this, when the Washington Redskins previously were on top. But now the Commanders underneath Jaden Daniels, they're getting a lot of Washington fans
Ooh boy.
coming out. And I'm like, oh, Unc, talk to us about the Washington team and how it used to be and how this kind of mixed with Daniels. Daniels, he's looking MVP-ish, man. I did
Oh
not see this
man.
coming, bro. I
Well,
did not see this coming.
he's sure making us forget about Marvin Harrison Jr. as Rookie of the Year pretty quickly.
That's what I'm
Um,
saying, bro.
just a remarkable performance from this young man, and he is a young
Yes,
man. Like
sir.
he's like 23 years old.
Right.
LSU quarterback. Ran for 1,000 years last year in the NCAA. Very
Mhm.
quietly, while we were all talking about Caleb Williams, this guy showed up like uber pro ready. And again, we were talking about the Lamar prototype that's been established. He plays it like
Mhm.
a fiddle. This guy's got 82% completions on about 225, 230 yards a game.
Wow.
He's got a gentle, feathery touch on his deep ball. He's made Terry
Wow.
McLaurin relevant again. And
Nice,
at the
Derek.
same time, he's putting up run at will numbers, right? He's been averaging 55 or 60 yards a game in the running game. Three more
Mhm.
touchdowns in the running game. The guy's accounted for 7 touchdowns so far. Like that's
Wow.
production. That is production. And it's coming from a rookie who
No.
we have, documented at length to be an unlikely scenario, given that we're firm believers in keeping rookies on the bench and holding the clipboard and learning through the mentoring system, et cetera, et cetera. It's been proven time
Mhm.
and time and time again, with the exception of, Lamar, basically, the guy who established that prototype. And now here
Yeah.
comes Jaden Reed, and he's just been really impressive, like super impressive. He has not been rattled in any way. He's been
Mhm.
lightning quick when he does run, very decisive. He apparently has no problems reading the defenses. So his maturity level is very impressive. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, man, new rookie of the year candidate because of course if you got a rookie quarterback that shows out, that pretty much seals it, right? Yeah.
The key is he really torched the Cardinals. And you
Ooh,
know me,
baby,
me and you, we're big on our boy Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin
right?
Harrison Jr. connected for a TD to start the game versus the Cardinals, and then Jaden Daniels said, "Okay, hold my beer. Watch what I'm finna do." And Jaden
Yeah,
Daniels just went out to torch them for 233 yards passing. You know what I mean? 86% completion percentage. Ran in for a touchdown. This is the future, not even the future, the current
the future is
quarterback being
now.
a true dual threat that's gonna burn you in the running game and obviously the passing game. And Jaden Daniels shows that to a high level. I'm gonna give
Pure,
credit to a guy
pure
who
football player.
pure football player.
Now,
I'm gonna
my
give
only
credit to Cliff
reservations,
Kingsbury.
sorry,
Talk to me.
my only comment on Jaden is that
Yeah,
at 6'4" and 210, he's a little bit
slight.
light compared to Lamar, right? He's not the same
Yeah.
truck that him and Richardson are. So I'm sometimes a little concerned because he's so long that, he's going to be a bit fragile, but time will tell. To this point,
Time will
he looks
definitely
like,
tell.
at this point, he looks like he's made of rubber, and it's awesome.
It's he actually took. I saw some LSU games last year, and he took some crazy hits. And I'm
Did
like,
he?
bruh, the, in the NFL don't play that, man. These are grown men. You know what I mean? Like
Well,
it's a
yeah,
softer league, but these are grown guys who get
yeah,
paid on the other side of football too. You know what I mean?
yeah. I saw. I mean, this isn't exactly related, but it's similar. We should have had it during the Derrick Henry conversation. But Cynthia Freeland again, the math wonk, right? She figured
Mm-hmm.
out. She did the math on having a guy who's 240 like Derrick Henry or Lamar moving at 10 miles an hour when they hit the hole and hit a linebacker. She calculated at over something like 1,200 pounds of force. It's like, wow. Like, so it hurts, man. It hurts. So I
Yeah.
pray for this kid, man. I pray for this kid that he doesn't have to do too much of that work because that's a lot of force in the
Yeah.
NFL, man. Pro players moving at the speed that they do in today's NFL, like that's a lot of force. Like that's almost like getting hit by a car.
It is true, man. The thing about Jaden, think about it like this. A few years ago, we had a young dual threat quarterback for the Washington Redskins at the time, Mr. Robert Griffin III,
Robert
and he
Griffin
was
III.
unfortunately taking a lot of risks with
They
his
ruined
legs,
that
and he
kid.
got
What
killed, destroyed his career.
what they
You know what I
did to
mean?
that kid, I'll never forget. I forget. It was a famous coach too. His name eludes me at the moment, but he
Yep,
really wanted
Mike
to
Shanahan,
win.
I believe.
I think it was
Yep.
I think it was Shanahan, and they wanted to win
Mm-hmm.
bad. And of course, Griffin wanted to win, too, right?
Of
When
course,
I
playoff
mean,
game.
it was a playoff game, and they put him out there, and it was ill
Mm-hmm.
advised. And like
A
there was
lot of
one
bad, man.
picture that showed just like how wonky his knee was. Like one picture sort of caught how loose. Like it almost
Yeah.
looked like the Theismann injury. Like it was at a weird angle, and you're like going, that kid should not be on a football field. That guy should be like in a brace with with
Yeah, it was
crutches.
pretty bad. It was pretty
Yeah,
bad.
and
They forced him. They forced him to play that game. You know, what I mean, he
yeah,
wanted to go, but you know what? You're the coach. You're paid a lot of money too. You gotta
they're
protect
paid
the
to be
player
the
from
adult
himself.
in the room. Of course, Robert Griffin wants
Right.
to play.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to be an
My thing
NFL
is,
quarterback by being shy about playing.
it's a fact. You know what I mean? I will say this before we move on from the Commanders. Big credit, man, to this guy Cliff Kingsbury, man. Some
Yeah.
people are better coordinators than coaches, and I don't
Yes.
know if this continues, this guy might get a coaching job. He has made Jaden Daniels a fantastic quarterback, and I
Yeah.
think it's the play
Yeah,
calling,
man.
it's the schemes, it's the designs, it's calling the right plays at the right time. We're
For the right
looking at
player.
a Washington team with the right player, of course. We're looking at a Washington team, brother, that is going to take the NFC East because
Look
the
look
Eagles
at
are
that
looking
division.
horrible.
That
Yeah,
division is it's pure cheeks, man. Anybody in that division could win, man. And I would definitely like if I was laying a bet today on who would win that division, I would
yes,
look
sir.
pretty closely at the odds on the Commanders, right? Because I mean, seriously,
Hmm.
who else is that? I mean, maybe Philly if they get their act together, but Philly Commanders, I'd flip a coin on it right now, just given the
Yeah,
talent of this kid, and he's making everybody else around him better. He's inspiring the defense to do a better job. Like the kid is a leader, and he's leading that team.
I really like it, man, and it goes against our thinking. He's having a CJ Stroud type season, and you know what I mean. Sometimes players
Yeah.
come out in the draft and you don't expect them, but they're ready. Most players are not ready, but they ready, bro. And if y'all
What,
watching this,
dude, man?
everybody
Listen,
watching, you better spend that like button, man. Get ready to
for
smash
for
the like and
esteemed
share. Let's go.
for esteemed analysts like ourselves on the internet, we're just going to call Jay Daniels the exception that proves the rule.
There you go, bro. There you go. You know what I mean? And hey, I will say this: we're already a little bit inside this Vikings game, and it's going pretty good. So we can't necessarily do lines and spreads, but we can check out the lines and spreads on other games, bro. How's it
Yeah.
looking for you? Do you have a few games that
Oh,
us
yeah. I
betters,
picked
us
out about
gamblers should
five.
watch out for?
I
Let's
picked out
go.
about
Yeah.
five. I'll go through them quickly, right? But the ones that are appealing, like obviously mismatches, I think that exist in the spread or the over under or something like that. So or just certain teams that momentum, you're going with them, right? Yeah, it looks like Now, look, the Jets only have another field goal, so nothing dramatic happening in that game. But yeah, I've got the Ravens at the Bengals. I think
Big game.
that's going to be a shootout, basically. That's going to be a very offensive game. Um, I just
Mm,
think that the Ravens have a ton of scoring potential, but they can't stop anybody. So I think they've just
yes.
decided that we're just going to go try to outscore everybody every week. And I think Baltimore's capable of playing that type of game, and they probably have enough defense to stop them. So yeah,
Mm,
give me the Ravens 2.5 points. I think they're on the road as 2.5 point
so
favorites, and
2.5 points. Hmm.
take the over. Is it down? Did you say it was down to one?
No, no, it's not down to one. My bad. It's still 2.5 points.
Right.
They're playing in the Cincy. They're playing in the
In
Bengals house.
Cincy, right? Yeah.
In
So they're
Cincinnati.
they're a road
They're on
favorite,
the road.
and I would take the over on the 48.5. The
Oh,
other game I
okay.
found very appealing is Giants going to Seattle. Just
Nice.
nothing works in the Giants' favor on this game this week. They're traveling all the way across the country. They're playing a team that's just sort of on fire right now, and the
Mm,
Giants can't really stop anybody. Malik Neighbors, their only offensive weapon that's been worth anything at all this year, is out this week, right? So that 7 point line for Seattle, I'd look for them to blow past that probably by the second quarter. Um, but I'm still taking the under because I don't trust the Giants to score much at all,
Oh,
right?
so it's
So
gonna be blowout on the other end. So you're thinking it's gonna be so gone that the
yeah,
Giants won't even be able to put up points, which is actually a good prediction
like, I
based
could
off of
see like
both
this
sides.
game's got 37 written all over it, which is under the 42.
Yes, yes, sir.
The other one I think is interesting is I mean, it's interesting, but it's not interesting. Is the Colts at the Jags, right? Two teams that you probably wouldn't really care about one way or the other. Jags just look
We need
terrible.
we need our weekly Jags cry from you, man.
But the thing is, though, they're
Okay.
getting 3.5 points. Jags are favored by 3.5 at home for some bizarre reason. I'm pretty sure I'm reading that
Oh,
right. But either
well,
way, like the Jags can't score right now, and the Colts can. Now,
oh,
I think Jonathan Taylor's out, but
yeah,
we know
yeah,
Flacco's going to go down there and just do what he does, and he's going to find, he's going to make Pittman relevant. Yeah, I just think
okay.
that the Colts easily cover that. And I would
Yeah.
take the under though. 45 is the over under, so I'd take the under on that one. Uh,
Say this
Bills at
about this
Texans.
game. I
Bills
will
at
say just a
Texans.
quick second. I'll
Oh
say a
yeah.
quick second about this game. I think I actually kind of agree with that line, bro. I kind of feel that the Jags have to pull something off this game. I
Oh,
would
it's do
put a
or
little
die.
something on Jags because if they lose this game and they are 0-5, I think Doug Peterson's out of there, bro.
Oh
He's out
yeah.
of there. I think they're gonna start benching, like things are gonna be serious. So I think, as crazy as it sounds, I think the Jags have a chance here because it's do or die. It is careers gonna be changed after this, and Jonathan Taylor being out, I think that really affects that Indy
So you're
offense.
taking
That's
the
my point.
any given Sunday approach, the
I'm go.
desperate
Do you see how
backed
many
in a
upsets we had
corner.
last week? Yeah, I'm like, there's an upset city coming. I
It
feel it.
could
You know
well
what I mean?
be. It could well be if this thing
Mm.
like goes to plot as so many NFL weekends do. That I'm sure that's what'll happen. But based on what I've seen so far this season, the Colts have shown an ability to put up points. The Jags have not. Jags have good defense though. That's the one redeeming point. They have a reasonable defense, but that offense is just offensive. And until I see something different, I'm going to capitalize on lines like that and take the under.
And let's double back on this next week. Let's see what happens. We'll text throughout. I think this could be a shocker. Unc is going get in the chat. Let us know which one you're going with. Should be a fun
Yeah,
game. I think this is a sneaky fun game, man. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Could well be. The
It's,
next one I have is Bills at the Texans. So they're going down to Houston
mm,
after getting their ass kicked last weekend by the Ravens.
yes, sir.
Um, And you have to assume that the Bills are going to be in a bounce back mindset, right? And every
Hmm.
successful season, a little rain must fall, and a little rain fell last weekend on the Bills. But Houston has not been lights out the way we kind of expected them to be, and their running game is suspect. They've got some good receivers, but they're not really the complete package yet. And the Bills rebounding from last week on the road, away from Orchard Park. I just think that they got something they want to get off their chest today. So I'm going to go with the Bills +1 and take the over.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs coming in for potential revenge game. You know what I mean?
Man, that
That's
term is
somebody.
boy, aren't they getting some life out of that term these days? Huh? Everybody got a revenge game. We used to
You know
call them
what?
homecomings,
Homecoming. I
but
like
now
it.
everybody all
I
aggressive.
like it. My man, I gotta ask you something, man. What do you got for your guys, man? I think this might be game of the week. I don't we haven't done the game of the week section segments in a bit,
Oh,
but
Dallas at
Dallas
Pittsburgh.
versus Pittsburgh. I like this
Oh
game,
yeah, man,
bro.
I'm all in on Pittsburgh. Obvious, like even out of the
Yeah,
gate, right? But even as a non-Pittsburgh fan, Pittsburgh favored by 3 at home. I think it still is. I would,
yes, sir.
I didn't actually have this one noted down because I didn't think we'd be picking that one. Just because, I mean, I
Yeah, I
guess we
just wanted to
should.
get your
It's a
thoughts.
Sunday night game, and
Yeah.
everyone loves Dallas, Pittsburgh. But I just don't think it's a spectacular mismatch in any way, shape, or form. I think 3 points is about right. I'm all in on
Mm,
Pittsburgh covering that at home. I think they're the better
mm,
team right now, and Justin Fields is on the uptick. But what
mm.
is the over? The over under is pretty small on that too, isn't it?
It's a 44 over under.
Oh, it's that high.
But
Okay,
it's
I know.
pretty
I
high.
thought
They're
they
expecting
might have been
Dallas.
at 38 again or something.
No, the current odds are looking at 44 over
44.
under.
So that
Do you think it's
implies
going to be
kind
a
of like,
defensive game, or do you think it's going to be a shootout?
well,
What
it
do you think?
should be. It should be. I
Mm,
think just simply because Dallas hasn't been super prolific on offense yet, and Pittsburgh
true.
is who they are. But at the same time, Cowboys are blowing hot and cold, right? Last weekend they came out and actually
Mm,
stopped some people, or maybe it was the weekend before. But I just think that it being a Sunday night primetime game, I think the momentum is with Pittsburgh. 44 points implies like 24-20, and that sounds about right, right?
I
Maybe
like it. I like
2017
it.
is more accurate, but yeah. No, I'm totally. I'm very excited for this game. To be honest, that's the game I'm looking for. That'll be the highlight of my day today.
I definitely feel that. I'm gonna watch it with intensity, man. And I'm
Yeah,
also
man.
gonna watch out my lines, bro. I'm gonna watch my lines, and well, obviously the lines are supposed gonna be watched. I'm talking about my lineups in fantasy football. I'm talking starts and sits, y'all. You know what I mean? We're talking
Yeah,
starts
sure.
and sits for fantasy. Unc, we need your legendary wisdom, man. You're facing
Ah,
off against your son. What are you gonna son him?
shit.
What you got, bro?
Yeah. I know. Let me tell you, I'm not going to point out the fact that his tight end is. He's got Evan Ingram in this week. I ain't saying shit to him this time.
Ah, you letting him go with Evan Ingram's out. Savage. I like
Anyways,
it.
but yeah,
Talk
so
about it.
fantasy starts as a couple intriguing ones, just because they're going to be starting today finally, because with Taylor out in Indianapolis, that's going to give Trey Sermon, a running back named Trey Sermon, a crack at the starting job. But they're talking about
Mm,
committee. So I
committee.
wouldn't,
Okay.
yeah, if maybe in a flex spot, or if you really need somebody that you can throw in there, he's probably looking at least 10 touches, right? So that's double digit touches. In today's NFL, that's getting up there. That's starter numbers. So so
Mm,
that's new. The other one is on the Raiders. Zamir White is getting faded for a guy named Madison. Madison only
mm,
got like 6 touches last week, or 5 touches, but he got 60 yards with them, right? And he didn't even have any particularly large runs. So he's one of these guys who's just sort of working his way into that backfield conversation. And Antonio Pierce has said that he's the man. He's the guy going forward. So
mm,
he's available on the waiver wire. And if you're having problems at running back, he might could fit in for you.
mm,
Possible get big games. I mean, again, my philosophy is to pick games that have a predicted large over under total. Right, we don't have any over 50 for this week, but we do have some games that are 48 ish. Um, so you're looking at games like that. So Derek Carr in that game against the Chiefs.
Oh,
definitely an opportunity to get some big points there. DeAndre Swift is another guy who's just been fantasy toxin for me for years, but nevertheless, he does perform. And he's
yeah.
actually sneaky quiet, been getting almost all the carries in the Chicago backfield. So again, right,
Mhm.
the key to fantasy is volume, right? You want guys. I
Mm,
mean, DeAndre's been getting between like 12 and 16 touches for the last 3-4 weeks. That's volume. That's
yeah.
significant. That's going to pay off at some point. And he's been generally available on the waiver wire as well.
That's
Other
true.
guys, we might see DeAndre Swift. Well, as I said, DeAndre Swift, and he's playing the Panthers. Pardon me. That's the other point I wanted to make about that. Other
Yeah.
guys that might do well today, again, we mentioned Xavier Worthy earlier. He might have an increase in targets. And the other guy
Wow.
who's been sneaky quiet and is also available on in a lot of leagues still is Xavier Legette for the Panthers. He's another guy like Xavier Worthy.
Um,
Long guy, speedy rookie, big hands, big catch radius, all that type of stuff. And he's been quietly putting up numbers since Dalton has come in. So
he
that's
got his
another
first
guy.
touchdown last week. He got his first
Yeah,
touchdown last week.
if you're looking to fill
Wow.
a spot at wide receiver or in your flex, Xavier Legette's a good prospect that way. For your
Mm,
sits, not necessarily that you had Devin Singletary necessarily on your roster, unless you were just in need for a starter, right? But
yeah.
he's got two issues today: his groin and the Seattle defense, right? So
Wow.
I just
Oh,
don't see
snap.
anything good happening for like sit all your Giants players if you had any to begin with. But the
You have
other
Malik
one that
Neighbors. I feel bad for you because Malik was winning a
dude,
lot of matchups for you, bro. Malik
yeah,
is the truth. Oh,
he is the truth, man. Giants haven't had somebody like that since Odell Beckham.
fact.
All right.
Facts, facts.
Shakir in Buffalo is out, so I know a lot of people have him in their lineups. Same, of
Mm,
course. Obviously, we were talking about Jonathan Taylor earlier, right? So if he's in your lineup, make sure you get him out. Maybe get Sermon in, and the aforementioned Malik Neighbors also out today. So yeah, those are your sort of fantasy starts and sits. Obviously, you notice I'm missing like all the huge names and whatnot. The assumption is that
yeah.
obviously you're starting those guys, right? So I'm trying to
Oh,
find you
absolutely.
some information that you may or may not be aware of as yet for your lineups today.
I have a question for you, and this is kind of controversial, but it might help me out. Do you start benching Miami players? Like, let's say somebody has, a Waddle or Tyreek Hill or a Chane. Do you start benching them based off what we've seen so far?
Yeah, it's kind of discouraging, but I wouldn't be in a mad rush to bench those three particular players. Waddle, I think
Mm.
you could safely bench.
Yeah,
Tyreek, I mean, you drafted him, you put a lot of draft capital on the guy. You
yeah,
never know what's going to happen in the NFL, but if something big
true.
does happen, it's probably going to involve Tyreek. So you kind of just have to keep running him out there. And as
Yeah,
for HN, another good question. If you have other more reliable options, I would go with them simply because Miami's trailing so often. He gets phased out in the second half in a lot of games.
yeah,
Um, yeah, but again, that's hard to do because he's capable of doing so much. And chances are, you drafted him in the first half of the draft or whatnot. You probably consider him your RB1 or RB2.
yes,
So it's
sir.
kind of
Sure.
hard. But yeah, no, I mean that's why you draft bench players because yeah, like the Miami players right now are really not good and they're not reliable at all. They will lose you a chip this season if you have to rely on them. So yeah, take a look
Yeah.
at your other options.
That's a good point, man. I was just speaking for me, man. But people, if you got those players in Miami, it's not looking very, very
Are you
good.
kidding
I
me?
say
That's
this.
probably one of the
I'm
most
like
asked questions on fantasy podcasts all across the country for the last 2 weeks.
telling you,
with
man,
her
because
with her Miami skill players. Because think about it, right? When you
yeah,
drafted Tyreek, you had that 2000 number in your head, right? It's not impossible.
absolutely
2015 touchdowns, right? It's not impossible at all.
not at all.
Waddle another 806. right?
Yeah.
Easy, right? HN, pencil him in for 1,400 yards, 1,200 yards, right? Even if he's
Right.
got some other guys back there with Mostert, he may not get all the touchdowns, but damn it, that guy's fast and he chunks runs. We all had these expectations for Miami players, right?
Yes.
I dropped
Yes.
Raheem Mostert, right? You think I'm getting 20 touchdowns out of that guy this year? Hell no,
Nah.
right? That
Nah.
guy, shoot, they can't get out from between the 20s, let alone the red
Bruh.
zone. So, yeah, you have to adjust your expectations for Miami players right now. It's just the way it is. It happens every year in fantasy. Injuries are a bugger. Yeah, until they solve that QB problem,
Oh.
those skill players are more and more risky.
And it goes to show you, man, especially in fantasy, you have to take some risks. Like I took a risk with taking Nico Collins really early, paying off, bro. Take some risks, take some shots down the field, man. And Nico Collins looking like an individual who could. I'm not saying touch 2,000, but he's getting a lot of yards every week, bro.
Oh, he's looking
Very,
like
very productive
1,500.
wideout.
He's looking like
Yes, sir.
1,500 yards.
Yes, sir.
Easy. Yeah, and he's like a dozen touchdowns. You pretty much pencil him in for that, I think. Oh shit! Now I've just cursed myself. Now, now you wait and see. The guy's gonna have an ACL
No,
injury this afternoon. God
we
damn
knocking
it! What
on
was I
wood, bro.
thinking? What was I thinking? He's like one of my studs on my fantasy team.
I'm knocking on wood right now, bro. I'm gonna say it like
Okay,
this.
that's a
But
very
one
good
thing,
suggestion.
hey, we might as well, you know what I mean? One person that I know is not gonna get injured because he's already in the Hall of Fame is Mr. Rod Woodson, man. We
Yeah,
gotta talk about it. You know what time it is, y'all? One of my favorite segments of the day or the show, Overtime with Unc and Phew, and we going through a stretch right now, looking at some legends. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
dude.
And we have the OG who's gonna talk to
They
us
don't
about one of
get
the
much
biggest
more
legends.
legendary. Oh my
Talk about it,
goodness.
Unc. Talk to them.
Well, well, of
Talk
course,
to them.
this comes from a deeply personal place, right? See,
Hmm.
as a Steelers fan since 1979, the
Ah,
80s,
yo.
the 80s, especially the late 80s, were a problematic time to be a Pittsburgh fan. It wasn't a lot of fun, a lot of mediocrity as Chuck Noll finally eased himself out of there. And they
Wow.
brought in a gentleman by the name of Mr. Cower. Mr. Cower
Mm.
brought a whole new coaching philosophy, although he was a perfect fit for Pittsburgh because it all started on defense and running back. Right, so we all know about the legendary bus there, Jerome Bettis. That was one of the key acquisitions. But very quietly in the late 80s and early 90s, Cower and the Steelers worked on an incredibly ferocious defense that was predicated on a lot of blitzes coming from Kevin Green and even Rod Woodson as a free safety would be released on the blitz sometimes. I mean, Pittsburgh was terrifying there for a minute. And that also was a time when I started like paying more attention again to the Steelers after sort of like not giving up on them, but just sort of never really expecting much, right? Plus, I was completing college, finding a job. I mean, sports was not my biggest priority. But by 1993, I was, married and had children and cable and all that type of stuff. So I fell in love with my Steelers again, and especially Rod Woodson, because he was one of the guys that really led that charge. Incredible numbers on the guy. Here's some of this stuff. He was drafted in the first round in 1987, right? So free safety being drafted in the first round. They knew he was going to be special. Um, but he played 17 seasons, which is incredible, remarkable. 32 fumble recoveries and 12 interceptions for TD, both still NFL records, right? So yeah, legit, man. He was a champion, Super Bowl champion for your Ravens, no
So,
less, right? Because he played 10 years for the Steelers and then played another
yeah.
7 years, for Baltimore and I think San Francisco and I think the Raiders got in
The
there too.
Oakland Raiders, yeah, around the end. Yeah,
Right, so
yeah.
he played
Played
for all those
around.
tough he played for all those tough guy franchises because that's who Rod Woodson was.
Yeah, he was a tough guy. Hmm.
71 interceptions in those 4 years, right? So that's like you're averaging basically in
Wow.
17 years. 71 interceptions. I mean, what does that work out to, right? Like, I don't know,
About
3 or 4
three,
a year.
four.
Like
Yeah, 3 or 4.
that's pretty
That's
good,
really
man.
good. That's production, man. Yeah.
Defensive
Yeah.
player of the year in 93. Like that's a hard award to win, especially as a free safety, no less. Right. But I
Yes,
mean, look at
sir.
that picture on that guy.
Mm.
Look at the pads on that guy. Like the guy's a big, thick, solid guy, fast, tough as nails. He was just an
Yes, sir.
outstanding player that started off that Steelers resurgence. Lived a good life,
Mm.
never had any problems with drugs or beating up girlfriends or any of that foolishness. He wasn't a
Yeah.
complete saint, but he was consistent with his character. He had a couple of altercations. The man likes to fight. I'm pretty sure he just likes to hit people like you'd expect from a free safety. Because the
Of
only
course.
only incidents on his rap sheet are a couple of bar
Mm.
scuffles where apparently one of them started and people were talking football and they just got heated. The man is a passionate player, right? So
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
and he likes to hit people.
I mean, you know what? I wasn't really watching ball at that time. I wasn't even born in '93, man. I was probably somewhere swimming in my dad's, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
You know what
dude.
I mean? But
Yeah.
I'll say this, when I watch highlights of Rod, I really love his play style
It's
because
a
he
different
wasn't
type
he
of
wasn't
football,
shy.
right? It's
He
you
wasn't
can
shy
see
about getting in there.
like
Mhm.
half the plays he makes you couldn't do in today's NFL,
Nah.
right?
That's
The
fact.
90s, the early 90s was probably the peak period for what a defense could do to disassemble you.
Oh, straight
And he
up.
led the
And you know
charge,
what?
man.
I like his ball skills too, man. His anticipation when the
Yeah,
football's coming, he almost
super
became a receiver in a way.
super smart
Crazy.
guy. And he showed the
Oh,
way basically. He basically was the prototype for another Steeler great that followed him, Troy Polamalu,
oh, definitely. We're gonna talk
right?
about Troy sometime too.
that
Yep, we'll have
that
him.
free agent
Yeah.
sort of circling around the middle. Do I rush? Do I blitz? Do I follow this guy downfield? Who knows?
Mm.
We'll figure it out as soon as the ball snapped, right? Just amazing stuff, man. Just amazing stuff.
Another interesting fact I learned about, Rod Woodson is he played corner and safety.
Yep. Yep.
So he played both in different times of his career. And I think that's really cool because they might be similar as position, obviously cornerback and safety, but they have different responsibilities and they're
Yep.
very, very important for the game of football. If you are the safety, last line of defense, brother, you
Yep.
need to really be there, really, really technical. A great safety knows how to cover and tackle. And then
Well,
depending on what scheme the defensive coordinator puts in, you might have to get in there and hit a Derrick Henry, or you might
see,
have to go in there and cover
right.
Devontae Adams. It depends. You know what I
And
mean?
and see, and all the best safeties got
Mhm.
usually get moved from cornerback to free safety because they become more veteran players, like Ronnie
Yes.
Lott, like Ron Woodson. Because like when you're the free safety, that last line of defense, what's that mean? That means that you have to be able to read what's happening in the offense, right? So again, you're
Yes.
like a center. You have to be able
Yes.
to read the play before it happens and as it's
Mhm.
unfolding, right? So that's
Yes.
why the free safety can rove around a little bit. They're a bit of a free agent back there, but they have big
Mhm.
responsibility. And like you said, when it's time to pancake someone in the open field, you got to have that. You got to have that ability, man.
You gotta come with the boom. And the thing is, the best Hall of Fame type of DBs, they could get to the ball, but they also could get into the run stopping, tackle,
Mm-hmm.
all
Yep.
types of things. And when I saw some highlights of Rod Woodson, I'm like, this is a complete football player. It was really, really dope to see him, at least on
Mm-hmm.
video. I wish I would have seen him live. Unc, you got the chance of doing that. Do
Dude,
you think
like,
how did he affect the Steelers? What are them last retrospectives you have about him as a Steeler and how he
well,
affected
what
the
it
game?
was is that we could win games now on defense. We could look at the defense almost like as an extra offensive tool because they would get these sacks, because they would play so creatively, they would get the turnovers, interceptions returned for touchdowns. So it became very exciting to watch the Steelers play again because you hadn't seen that in quite a while. But it also, because you have to remember, right, at the same time, we were dealing with trying to find a proper replacement quarterback. It took us till Ben
Mm.
Roethlisberger before we had a quarterback that we could really rely on and count on. Like I
Mm.
believe in '95, we had like Neil O'Donnell, which is a perfectly functional quarterback, but not anybody's idea of a Super Bowl winning quarterback, right? He just wasn't.
Yeah.
He was your ultimate sort of like serviceable kind of game manager, kind of don't lose the game too much, and he managed to do that too sometimes. But yeah, and then we ended up with this guy named Cordell Stewart, right? Slash,
Oh yeah, you
who
think I
was
know? Yeah.
an interesting pre-Lamar prototype.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And he was again very exciting player and whatnot, but not reliable in the typical way, right? It was always a bit of a roller coaster ride. Sometimes he would send your heart up into your mouth, going like, "Oh crap," and other times you'd be just exhilarated because no one else could have made that play, right? So it was a bit of a high
Yeah.
wire act at quarterback until Ben Roethlisberger came in. So that was a long period of time that the defense had to use players like Woodson to
Mm.
keep the game alive, keep them competitive, and we were competitive.
Mm.
Guys like him made it possible to go to a Super Bowl with Neil O'Donnell, right?
Mm.
That's pretty
Wow.
important. That's a pretty big statement. But yeah, no, it was just a thrill a minute watching that version of the Steelers, and because Woodson and eventually Palomalu again, like they would do things like you never saw other people do, right?
Oh,
Like
that's a
Rod
fact.
Woodson,
Yeah.
sort of just like sneaking up, on the line, and then hut. Next thing you know, he's in the backfield. Like, what's the free
Yeah.
safety doing getting a sack? But there he was, right? So that's the type of thing that really endeared me, as a Steelers fan throughout the years. That there's multiple decades and cycles. You watch a team long enough where they go through their hills and valleys. But like the early to mid '90s was a real peak for the Pittsburgh defense, and Rod Woodson led the way.
I like that, man. And I'll button this a little bit, saying the fact, like, for me, I watched some of his highlights with the Ravens. He was a bit older, but he was still getting in the mix, and that
It's
goes to
brain.
show you 17 years
It's like a coach on the field.
experience.
It's
That's
like a
what I'm
coach on the
saying.
field at that point.
Yes, sir. Being the coach of the defense, being the coach on the field,
Yeah.
you need leaders like this who are not just skilled, but guys who have the maturity and understanding of football to be really almost being, like you said, a coach on the field, bruh.
Yeah,
Hey,
man.
I'm gonna say, yeah,
You're a rookie cornerback, and you
mm,
hear Rod Woodson's voice yelling at you to,
yeah.
move back 2 more yards. You're gonna move back 2 more yards.
Oh,
You
you
know what I
gonna do
mean?
it, bruh. You're gonna
Yeah.
do it. Oh, he gonna see you in the locker room.
Well, it's just he carries so much authority when he speaks with his resume, right? And his physical
Absolutely.
stature.
I like it, man. I like it, man. And you know what? These slowly becoming my favorite segment of the show, y'all. You know what I mean? The overtime with Unc, where we review some legends. So if y'all have some suggestions, get in the comments,
Yeah.
talk to us, man.
Yeah,
And you
get
know what I
it.
mean?
Get
If
him a
you have
chat.
them,
Give us some
yeah.
suggestions. Nothing gives me more pleasure than doing research like that on players and reminding myself.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've seen Rod Woodson play or even seen any highlights. So yeah, it was fun to go back.
Man, I was looking up YouTube clips. And I'm like, I was watching.
Yeah, enough of this.
Whoa, this guy's crazy. You know what I mean? So good.
You'd be suspended
Tell
for
you.
4 games if you put those hits on people nowadays.
You like that Derwin James thing that happened. You like what? Derwin James getting suspended a game for
Yeah.
playing football, and of course it's against the Chiefs. Come on, of course he gets suspended against the Chiefs, one of the
The
best
12th
safeties in
man.
the league.
The 12th man.
Let's see if the 12 man happens tonight, man. I appreciate you, Unc. I appreciate everybody who came and tuned in, pressed a like, shared, and everything in between, man. We appreciate y'all. It's been Unc and Phew. Ready for some football week 5, and we out.
Unc Phew
Peace.
doing what we do. See you
Yes,
next time, boys and girls.
let's get it.
Gonna go enjoy